We'll start in a couple of minutes. Welcome everyone to our monthly ChatGPT workshop. And the topic for today is how are conversational AI and chatbots are revolutionizing the market in terms of support. We're just getting set up. I'll request Ceylan, Ivan, and Vincent to sort of switch off their cameras and come on the stage. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi Ceylan. How are you?
Good, thanks. It's actually pronounced Ceylan,
Oh, I'm really sorry.
but I completely understand the mispronunciation. I'm so used to it in my 24 years of age.
Yeah. So can you repeat again? What is the pronunciation?
Ceylan.
Jayla.
It's like Jay and then
Got it. Got it. Thanks. Hello Vincent. Thanks for joining in.
Hello, hi everyone. Good to be here.
So let's get started. We have, I think, enough people, and others will trickle in, and we can start the session. Sneha, you can sort of start the presentation. So I'll start with my introduction. I'm Ankur. I'm the co-founder for a Yuki community platform and Samurai. And Yuki is a community platform for creators, brand, and businesses to help them have a deeper relationship with their community by sharing content, having discussion, hosting events, and so on. We also have a tool called Samurai, which is a tool to democratize access to AI tools for everyone. So we release AI tools and open source them regularly for the community. Yes, I think we can go to the next slide. So we have three speakers today, and starting with Ceylan, she is the CMO and co-founder at BeforeSunset, and Ivan is the co-founder at Collabwriting. He has 10 years experience in business and is passionate about solving problems, building stuff, and delivering value. Great to have you here. And we have Vincent as well, who's the co-founder of RestoGPT and Orderbyte. He has also founded Expy all-in-one social storefront with a curated creator community for Indian creators. I think it might be indie creators. So, and so welcome everyone. We can start with the first question discussing. So we have seen a lot of buzz around AI, chatbots, conversational AI. So what do you think is, how is the space evolving? And Sneha, we can go to the next slide. And what are your thoughts on employing chatbot and conversational AI in your business or product? So we have all these tools like Chatbase, SiteGPT, and others, which let you add sort of ChatGPT or the GPT-3 and 4 on your site, and primarily used for support or sort of summarizing research papers and stuff like that, even in different business functions like sales and marketing. So we can start with Ceylan, and then others can follow. Yeah.
I mean, I think this is an interesting question because, as did with a lot of trends, AI was something that was somewhat of a trend that a lot of companies, a lot of industries tried to jump on the bandwagon of without really thinking about the macro level strategy of it. It was more of a, how do we find ways to jump on this trend as quickly as possible so that we don't miss out on it? But now that there's been some time that has passed and the trend is and the hype is kind of dying down, not dying down, but settling in and becoming more sustainable, we're seeing a lot of companies now starting to approach it in a more intentional way and really communicating with their users as to how can we integrate this technology to actually benefit our users rather than just for show. And that's something that we wanted to develop in BeforeSunset very intentionally from the forefront. We wanted the tool to be offering AI services so that we could take things off of users' plate rather than showing them a future with AI that would have a steep learning curve that would actually add on to their burden and would actually complicate the user interface. So I think that's something that is going to start changing a lot especially the coming months and the coming years. Additionally, I think with AI, there's no question that a lot of industries are going to be shaken up and a lot of transformations are going to continuously be happening. But I don't think initially when the ChatGPT became a huge trend, a lot of people were like, oh, we're all going to lose our jobs. AI is going to take over on every front. What are we going to do? But I think now that's yielding its place to how can we find a way to work with AI so that the human element can complement the AI element. And then as a result, we can actually create companies that are so much better than what they could be. So as an example, and then I'm going to yield the floor to the other speakers. With BeforeSunset, when we were launching, we wanted to create a daily planner and productivity platform that would allow users to actually like seamlessly plan their day with like the minimal amount of tasks as possible. So what we allowed is they come on, there's the human element that's still present. They come on, they type in their main focus of the day, the main task that they want to focus on, and then they run the AI on it. And then the AI suggests potential subtasks, how we should prioritize the task list. And then once you sync with your calendar, it creates a schedule for you off the bat. So there's still that human element of prioritization, the personal preference as to how they want to approach it. And then on top of that, the AI takes over on things that are repetitive, a little bit like monotonous, that human beings wouldn't want to participate in on the first place.
Great. I think that was a detailed sort of personal experience you've had building on AI and ChatGPT. And I think Ivan, you want to take this forward and your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so basically, when it comes to me, I've been into AI sphere for quite some time. Chatbots are not anything new. Even like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, there were quite good ML models that could understand language. But what actually GPT-3 enabled us that wasn't there in the past is, I think, it removed the need for intentionally designing conversations around chatbots, because it just understands everything and you can tell it with prompt engineering what's the next step, what it should do, and then you can automate a lot of things that previously were done like with if-else, like Dialogflow or RAS AI. So you had like conversational designers that needed to design those conversations, so your users are able to just chat with that chatbot and get additional value. And now, like, the difference with GPT-3 and 4 is that like transformers let us remove that additional step, which is great. And when it comes to like us currently employing AI, we have some machine learning models in the back to do semantic search, and we have additional features coming soon. But at this moment, we predominantly use it for support. So whenever customers come, they ask particular question, semantic search for answers, or give them suggestions what you can do. And with large language models that were developed in the previous 2 years, it's a lot better and a lot easier than it was like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Got it. I think GPT solved the issue around context in a conversation. So it's able to understand what is the intent of a conversation and the context, and sort of respond accordingly, which was missing sort of in the previous versions of chatbot. I think Dialogflow and others, you had to create conversation structures, which is sort of not even relevant now. So I think that has changed, and it has allowed, I think you mentioned semantic search in your database around questions and say examples, or your knowledge base can be better executed with the current models. So great. Vincent, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, firstly, I think both of the responses have been very insightful. And I think one thing that it really trickles down towards is, I think, this shift we're seeing from, looking at all of it from the perspective of, we can offer all of these different solutions, to rather looking at it from the perspective of, what are the specific problems that it can solve for your particular customer base, and more than that, how exactly would your customer base or your industry work with it. And what I mean by that is, for instance, with us in the restaurant industry, it's a very different industry than kind of most kind of online native industries, because of the fact that they're very, not as technically savvy, and it's not to their fault. They know how to prepare great food and how to interact live with people. And the same thing here, many restaurant owners and such were very much skeptical about conversational AI and just the general use of GPT models and other LLMs from the perspective of, will this be, again, replacing what I'm doing? Will it be able to listen to me and do as I do? So we kind of had to essentially shift understanding from it just being a, feature where you're able to just conversate, to kind of almost framing it as their own virtual employee when it comes to managing their online storefront. So whether it's to open earlier or close earlier, and also to build out their storefront as well. So it really became for us a play on, pinpointing the specific problems that the industry had, and stating that, our AI manager can do this and that, rather than that, you say our AI manager can alleviate this pain point for you, and then this is how you're going to interact with it. And I think that's something that will be worked upon a lot in the future, is understanding, okay, what is the best way for your users to interact with such new models and learning systems, because I really don't think that the native chat functionality is the kind of end-all be-all solution for all industries per se.
Got it. And I think you're solving a specific use case where there's a convergence of offline and online world, and how can you provide value to the users? AI might be one of the ways to provide or solve for the problems they face. So I think AI can enhance it, but I think users are not looking for AI to solve all the problems. They are looking someone to solve the problem. Any product that does that would have a relevancy in the new normal. So great. I think we have different contexts to start with. The offline online world, personal experience of building an AI tool, with the hype going up, and now as ChatGPT, even their usage is down by 20% because college students have gone for their vacations. So one of the use cases of ChatGPT is students to solve for their homework, and the usage from their side is down. So coming to the next one, how does ChatGPT compare to other AI chatbots in the market? If you've tried any, how do they perform? There's Claude 2 that's there from Anthropic, and there are others in the market. Bard is there. I think Bing is supported by GPT again. Anyone wants to go first on this? If they have a personal experience, else we'll go in the usual order.
I can just jump in.
Sure.
So mine is going to be a short answer, and it's all going to be dependent on the marketing and the user interface of ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT was the first time where an AI chatbot or an AI application was so simple to use and the barriers to entry was so low that it was adopted so quickly by so many people, regardless of their previous experience with AI or any machine learning or anything. So I think that's why it was such a game changer in the market. That's why it was massively adopted. That's why it became a huge hype. And I think just the sheer applicability of the use case to so many different industries, so many different people, from students to employees, that people who are working in the creative sector, so many different applications, even like just to have fun, just to like create a movie scenario about yourself and your friend group. So many people started jumping on the trend that the marketing was also done right in this sense, that I think it was just like revolutionary in the sense that that kind of like simple user interface and simple use case was never created before, in my opinion. That's why I think it became such a hit, and I think that's why it has such a transformational force in the AI industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the adoption of messaging intuitively is easier, and even if you sort of go bottom up from, say, teenagers, their entire conversational is around, say, messaging, even us. So with Slack and everything here, India, and WhatsApp is big. So conversation over text is easier. I think next level would be voice or video in a longer term. That would reduce the time to type a particular question. But yeah, so massively reduce the adoption cycle for an AI product by making it conversational. And and I think Ivan, you want to go next? I think if you've compared any other model or a interface with ChatGPT.
I haven't really. So I mean, I've used Bing because we have some of our infrastructure on Azure, and whenever I need something precise about Azure, I go to Bing Chat, and it's better with giving me direct links to direct documentation that is on Microsoft. And on the other side, when we look at ChatGPT, it has a lot of hallucinations about how something can be done. And besides, GitHub Copilot as well does a lot of hallucinations, especially when you do on things that are pretty new on Azure. So those are only two that I've currently compared. And yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is direct link on Bing Chat and ChatGPT with a lot of hallucinations. But in some cases, it's better at producing already existing code. If you ask it about something that isn't that new, it just gives you better answers.
Got it. Yeah, hallucination is something I think that's prevalent in Bard also. If you sort of, it does make up a lot of things, a lot of links and a lot of information, which it's still learning to sort of understand what they stand for. Yeah, so similar experience as mine as yours. So Vincent, any experience in comparing other ChatGPT or any chatbot which is using GPT-3 or GPT-4 as an API or in the backend?
Right, so we've been looking into, and I've just also been internally testing out Bard, because we've been using quite a few different Google products, and it's very interesting. I can't really think of an analogous example, but it's fascinating when you compare how different prompts, what results you can derive on ChatGPT versus Bard, and you start figuring out how, for certain prompts or certain things, Bard actually ends up giving you a more optimal response or answer than ChatGPT. Like, one thing that I saw was when it comes to finding, best prices, or kind of, even if it's something as random as like flight info, I guess maybe because of already the native kind of search integrations of Google Flights and such, Bard actually ends up being a little bit more optimal. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of, because in terms of design, they're very similar, but it'll be very interesting to see how kind of that transpires in the future in terms of like, will we be kind of jumping between these different kinds of chatbots and like how will users be figuring out which one is more optimal for their needs. And I think something for me that I found interesting, I saw, and I forget where, I think I saw an article written by a couple of employees at Google talking about how, Bard over time and, that kind of technology will be integrated across Google's different product lines and workspaces. And I think one fascinating thing about that will be the ability to recognize when, let's say, you're either searching or writing about, if you're on Google or Google Docs and you're writing about something you've prompted about previously, its ability to kind of bring that back and somehow, contextualize that to your current point of view. And I think that's going to be something interesting to watch out with Bard, is just that fact that across all those product lines, if there's going to be that capability to interconnect your previous prompts with your active prompts on other products and services, I think that could definitely be a game changer for Bard. But yeah, so far I think ChatGPT is still just the leader for me. But I'm very, very excited to see how Bard continues to build out its system.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of companies in the AI space are now rolling out access in beta and otherwise for their chat conversational interface. So they were trying out enterprise solutions and now sort of opening it up in different countries. So Claude is one of them. Recently, as I started experimenting with the code interpreter in sort of ChatGPT, and it is scary how it can pick up stuff and understand. So assuming two persons are having a conversation and I don't know an answer to a question that you are asking, so my response would be learn about that and start the conversation again. So with code interpreter, it's learning every second and every response is different and it's optimizing and executing it. So the only limitation I saw today was the environment it was hosted in, except that it was trying out everything that was available on the internet. So this was for summarizing a particular PDF, and it was able to find libraries which could do that and test out each one of them based on the response. And if I'm regenerating the response, it is optimizing it and saying this is a better one. And the only limitation, I don't have the transformer library installed. I don't have this in my environment. And still, it was able to sort of navigate that and get me answers. So that was sort of exciting and scary at the same time. So how do you compete with such a thing if we are able to do that? Because we have limited memory, and even with us all combined, it'll be difficult. So yeah, I think we can move to the next question. We can talk about the doomsday scenario in another conversation. Sneha, next one. Yeah. Yes, I think doomsday scenario and the positive effects of AI are sort of intertwined in a way. So which industries will be most affected by ChatGPT? I'm assuming in a good way. So with the conversational AI. So what do you think? I think support, marketing, sales. We've seen examples in that, image creation, and now videos with Midjourney 2.5 and stuff. So Ceylan, you want to go first and talk about the industry? Yeah.
I mean, the short answer is anything that doesn't have a physical domain is going to be impacted regardless. And even eventually the physical domains are probably going to start being impacted as AI becomes a part of like robots that have these kind of physical features, which I already believe is happening. Slowly but surely, it's going to start dominating every single industry. Off the top of my head, I think software is going to be a big one, the software industry, definitely marketing, maybe not as much sales, because with sales, a lot of the game changer elements is that human element that completes the sale and the conversion. But I think in definitely like the cold outreach part of sales, it's definitely going to be impacted. I'm seeing a lot of law being transformed with AI. So I think within every industry, there's definitely room that can be replaced. But what's really energizing for me is that the aspects that are going to be replaced is things that human beings don't necessarily enjoy doing regardless. So I think there's going to be a push towards those kind of mundane tasks that people don't enjoy to the tasks that actually people start using their brain power and their creativity and their humanity. And the human interaction is going to be at the forefront of what we do in a lot of our careers, I think, going forward. But the short answer is every industry is going to be impacted.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were talking about it, I was thinking that in the longer term, we wouldn't want to read our own emails. So we would have assistants. So it would be assistants talking to assistants. So the cold calling and the cold emails and the cold conversations would happen between them. So might not directly happen with us also. So yeah, interesting times. Ivan, your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Anything that is related to any kind of conversation is going to be heavily impacted. And everything that previously took a lot of time to just go over a lot of documents like law, it's going to be extremely impacted. So I think that all this actually enables people to save a lot of time and just use their expertise wherever they have expertise to do that, to bring value and not to spend time with everything else. We studied software engineering, it is going to change a lot. And we've seen this for the past few years with GitHub Copilot, so everyone now uses it. And junior developers have a problem with that because there's less and less and less jobs for junior developers. And yeah, basically anything conversational will be heavily impacted. And on the other hand, when we see it, video editing and everything graphical probably will be impacted a lot, because now you can train machine about what you want to get from all that podcast. You want TikToks, it can just create everything because full transcript, find most interesting things, and then just size that. So I think that takes a lot of time, and somewhat before took a lot of effort to build that skill is now actually replaceable by the AI. So yeah, doomsday scenario.
Yeah, I think in longer term we might get there, but till then I think it will increase our efficiency to actually complete a task, have time spent on things which are relevant, and I think there are a lot of stuff which we can optimize and focus on the right thing. So I think the everyday tasks have got optimized as internet and softwares have kicked in. So this is one of the steps in that direction. So Vincent, your thoughts? Any positives you see? I think we all know about the negatives.
Right. Yeah, it's very hard to follow up on these two because, I think a lot of the points have been touched upon. I think, yes, first of all cold touch points, wherever it's coming from, that's going to completely, change. I literally just saw a Tesla AI bot cold call of a lead and get them to get on a full call with a sales rep, which was unbelievable. But that's the whole thing, that you'll still need to afterwards, when you're getting more to those kind of warmer touch points, you still need that human intervention. And I think that there'll still be lots of more roles opening up there, as well as prompt engineering. I do think that there is still a lot of skill to be had there, and then also in terms of working with whatever is provided by conversational AI and just AI in general, from the perspective of, I think we've all heard this phrase by now, oh, this was definitely written by AI, or this feels like an AI did this, and that's where I think really humans will have to start to focus in more on, is kind of figuring out, okay, how do we use this and leverage this, but add the human feel and touch point to it. And I think going back to the whole notion of physical, more kind of physical industry, like restaurants, I think one thing that will really be affected there is, I think all the tech that is necessary is already there. But then the big question is, okay, so why aren't as many, let's say, restaurants digitally native? Well, the simple answer is the management of the technology. That's the difficult part. And that's exactly where AI can step in and start to automate lots of processes and essentially act like a virtual or digital workforce. And similarly to how it will impact support, it will impact general technology management. And I think that's going to also be just a major area or function that it will affect. I think rather than just simply industries, it will be affecting kind of roles across industries. And I think, yeah, very easy way to put it is any cold touch points and any kind of basic management side of things, AI will kind of take under its wing, so to speak.
Got it. I think simplifying adoption process or adoption cycle might be one of the positive impacts of introducing AI in an industry which might have a low touch point with technology. Say, I think you mentioned restaurants, and there would be other industries in the similar segment. Great. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Yeah. I think we've already touched a lot about it. If we missed something, any top utilities you think conversation chatbot has not been deployed in that? So, twisting the question, what do you think has not been used sort of as a top utility in conversation chatbot, which can be a great application for it? Anyone wants to go first? Yeah.
I can go for it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, I mean, in my case, in our case rather, I think there are two different ways that we've used it internally that has been a little different. Number one, we've used these conversational chatbots as essentially impromptu AI delivery managers for our restaurants. So we have restaurant owners who tell the AI chatbot specifically, okay, we don't have this item, remove this item from the menu for now, or close up shop an hour earlier today, and such activities that it's able to do. And essentially it's kind of creating their own virtual staff. That's it's very interesting to see how far we can take that towards. And on the other hand as well, it's kind of understanding and summarizing financial and sales reporting in a very kind of easy to consume and process manner. For restaurants, for instance, lots of them don't want the entire kind of breakdown of all the costs and such. They want to understand, okay, what are my profits when you take out all the delivery fees, so forth and so on, and then also what are my top selling items, how can I improve upon how can I sell more of these top selling items and things like that. And I think that's also a place where these conversational chatbots will really begin to flourish over time.
Got it. I think I have heard a lot about implementation of GPT in finance or even chatbot in finance. Yet to use a product that's effectively being able to do that might be, I think that could be a great implementation for it. Ivan, Ceylan, any thoughts on this, or we can move to the next question?
Yeah, I think actually conversational AI can extremely help with user adoption in traditional industries, especially whenever you have like on-foot workers that work on fields. I was in that space for quite some time, and you would always have problems. However, the UX is simple for your app. you always have adoption curve with what's happening. So when you talk about finance and project management, especially in big corporations, and when you have a lot of levels of management to actually put that data in, so someone spends some money, put it in exact table, I think that is where this is really going to make a lot of change and a lot of value. Because right now you can develop an application that works like WhatsApp, and instead of a field worker telling their manager they did this or did that, that can be just transferred to exact that table where that could be approved in one click or can be added to financials or financial reports.
Good. Absolutely. I think user adoption, as you mentioned, from the offline to the online world, I think that convergence is a great touch point for conversational chatbots. I think that's a good example. Ceylan, you want to?
I think like something that we touched on a lot of different things, and I think the one thing that we didn't perhaps cover, and it's an ironic one actually, is a lot of the times I've been finding that conversational chatbots can help us remind us that we're human. This is going to sound interesting because a lot of the times with contemporary like work life, etc., human beings have constantly been pushed to their limits to the point where they work as robots, and that's what like capitalist economies also impose on human beings. We're seeing shifts from like 9 to 5 to now with hybrid ecosystems and remote work, all day work structures, and it's really quickly like work life is starting to use its human element. And I think with conversational chatbots and AI in general, like there could be like systems implemented and structures implemented that kind of reinstate that human element into it, reinstating like break times necessarily, like reminders of like, oh, you've been working for so many hours, it's time to take a break even. And then also with the time-saving capabilities of like these kind of chatbots and AI features, you're also going to be able to take back the ownership of your workday and your like these kind of like different responsibilities that you have. So we're, I think, going to be empowered again to make our workdays more manageable and more human.
Got it. I think optimization and sort of being inbuilt as part of the tech stack, sort of for you to remind yourself that you need to take a break in between. Having sort of, I think that's a great point. I was thinking along the same lines. In the longer term, what is the need of an organization sort of to build a product? So if you do have assistance, I think individuals can build products that are competitive with bigger companies. So the only advantage might be data or access. If the cost of sort of the hardware goes down, I think small group of people or even individual can compete with the best tech firms in the world. I think that's an interesting conversation for another time. So we can move to the next question. Yeah, I think this is what doesn't it make I think what is one thing that conversational chatbots can't do? I think it is the human element in a way, but anything else you think it is not sensible to use a conversation chatbot? Anyone wants to take a go at it? So yeah,
I'll just jump in very quickly because I've been struggling with this multiple times. It kind of goes back to, you know how they implemented in like phone call lines or something, and when you're trying to desperately to connect with a representative and it's always like automated responses that are not giving you what you need. It's kind of a similar situation applied to this situation. I think it's always amazing to have the conversational chatbot to streamline the initial processes or the initial steps to get you to the right structure. But at the same time, I think there should always be the option to actually connect to a human being, because sometimes it gets super frustrating to go through those situations and like can't get out of the interface, and it's always an automated response that is actually doing nothing to help you in that point. So I think coming at it from, even if it's like for example, the help service in a website. I think finding a way, or an email or something, like just an out of the chatbot interface is always beneficial.
Absolutely. I myself was struggling with the same issue. I was trying to sort of raise a complaint from a broadband, and I couldn't find a person to talk to. So the phone lines, the number they had, I think wasn't available. So they had a 24/7 chatbot. I didn't have an option for my issue, and there was no endpoint for me to go next. So I'll have to figure out an option to solve for that after the call. Ivan, your take on this?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with that 100%. And additionally, anything that's tied to creativity and creating unique insights on whatever level, you can just replace it with AI. Not now, maybe in 10, 15 years, but it cannot come to new conclusions. It's just a tech-generated machine learning model. So whenever you have higher management, decision-making, or actually talking with, like Vincent said, real people at the end, that's something that chatbots won't ever be able to replace, because we need human touch. We need human interaction with people in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. Vincent, any take on this?
So one thing about mundane tasks, like even let's say changing your settings on a particular app or such, I feel with certain kinds of UIs and interfaces, like, going onto your account profile and making some updates there, I think it's such an native interface to us at this point that I feel sometimes I see these conversational and chatbot interfaces being just like thrown into places like that, where it just doesn't need to be, at least at this point in time. And I think that's kind of where it comes down to industry understanding, like, look, if your users are already used to a particular interface and they haven't really complained about it, I think that's when you have to know, okay, maybe at least for now, this, we shouldn't just shove this down people's throats. And that's one of the areas I noticed is I've seen a couple of tools I use start to shift from having this kind of interface of, okay, I can go and update, I don't know, my password or my email and things, to just speaking with a chatbot. And I'm like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. I'm like, mentally almost, you feel like, did this save? I didn't press on save, so how can I be sure it's saved? And I think, it comes back to that understanding of, basic UI and UX and what your users online are already used to versus, what is an actual inconvenience and where the chatbots actually do make sense to be implemented.
Got it. I think the solved shouldn't be solved again in a way. So that doesn't sort of make sense for users of particular apps. I think setting is sort of solved. Might not be true for newer applications, but already sort of existing apps, it might not reduce your sort of headache of clicking on 3 steps. I think we can quickly move to the next one, as we have to cover a lot of things. Yes, so how can one launch an own AI chatbot like ChatGPT, sort of powered by any LLM? So I'm assuming these are companies who themselves are not going to write the whole tech stack for an LLM or train their own data. So they can use APIs available from GPT-3 or 4 or others. Now I think Palm is also available, so build out. So how do you launch a chatbot? For this, we've launched our own service called Embed AI. So you can sort of train your own content on PDF, YouTube, text, etc., and sort of train your chatbot to answer support queries, learn on research paper, crawl a YouTube video, summarize that, and stuff like that. Just to simplify, so a lot of applications available in this space, chat-based, etc. So how do you suppose we launch a chatbot? What is the easiest way in your experience? Anyone wants to take a dig at it first?
So,
yeah.
I mean, now it's easier than ever to just do it, because OpenAI has the Open API. You can just learn it you don't even need to learn it. You need to go to ChatGPT and ask it how to build an app, and it will explain to you. So yeah, I think the time where you needed like AI researchers, engineers, everything else to develop AI app it has passed. So yeah, I don't think it's hard to create a copy of ChatGPT or create extension that works as ChatGPT, but just figure out the way how to bring actual value to customers, and what are the industries that you can actually impact the most, and where there's no competition and it won't be already won't be affected by Microsoft and Google in like 2 or 3 years, because if you're doing anything with documents, come on, they will do something similar to that. So it's like understanding what's the value and what's the next step, and actually, if we're already talking about AI applications, it's interesting time to start understanding how you can generate or receive the most human-generated data you can. So if you're developing application, understand what's the human element that you can collect that will be important in the future. Why everyone is now closing their APIs like Twitter, Reddit, etc. It's not because they do not have any money to spend on Google Cloud, like there were like talks about that. It's because that data is extremely important and extremely valuable, and they're understanding this now. And on the other hand, you have Sam Altman trying to push that regulation with all AI applications. It's not because he cares too much about us, but because he trained his model on everything already and do not want any competition. So developing AI apps, I think short term, understand just what are the industries that you can bring the most value right now, because at this moment, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, they're trying to build AGI. They are not trying to solve all those industry concrete problems. So short run, solve industry concrete problems. Long run, think about the data they currently do not have, so you have to sell it to them in the future.
Got it.
That's a very good point. So sorry to jump in, because mine is going to reflect what Ivan was saying. So ChatGPT at this point is like the Google of AI applications. And I think in order to find something that is somehow going to cover something that ChatGPT is not covering, you have to get as micro level as possible, and you have to find a niche that has potentially been tapped into by ChatGPT but has not been covered entirely. And like ChatGPT is like a macro level solution, and like right now the current AI chatbots that are being delivered is niche, like micro level solutions for specific industries and specific problem situations. And so that is going to be a little bit more tiered towards like a specific persona type, so that you can actually become successful with that user persona. I potentially don't think like with the size that ChatGPT has come to, you can't create a competitor for it, but you can find something that complements it, that adds on to what it's offering, that is going to be niche in terms of like providing a solution to a specific customer segment.
Got it. I think finding your niche and solving for them and sort of retaining those users, even sort of the conversation might be the moat in the longer term. And Vincent, your take on this? What is the market segment? How do you sort of, if you are not tech savvy and you want to launch a chatbot, do you think you can use a third-party service and launch it and test it out first, rather than sort of writing your own code? So your take on this? So
yeah, definitely. I think twofold. One, I think similar to how Canva completely changed the face of design, so to speak, and doing anything like that online. similarly, I think ChatGPT is doing so with whether it's AI chatbots or just conversational AI in general. So it's very simple, even with the most basic of technical knowledge, APIs are always there to help already. But then, in addition to that, there are also a lot of tools that can just help even fast to just, get to market faster. I always look at Canva as a very great company to see how they're implementing new features and such. And for instance, when it comes to understanding how to implement, let's say, AI specifically to your industry, I think it was fascinating how they used it to, for instance, now a very big thing on Canva is you can use kind of AI to create kind of resume headshots for yourself, or like LinkedIn headshots for yourself, where you can switch what you're wearing, your background, all those things. And so I think Canva is like a great use case or example of, how companies can kind of start creating their own AI applications based on needs of their customers, and, work in a way where, when I'm trying to think of anything to do with design, right, I'm not thinking of, DALL-E or ChatGPT. I think of Canva if I want something fast. And even when it comes to using AI with design-related matters, I right away first think of Canva before anything else. And I think that's what, all companies should be trying to also do, is figure out the way how can they combine industry plus AI and make that be like the first thing that your customers within your segment, that they are here to shift towards you rather than anything else. With those two, and it comes down to use cases.
Absolutely. I think certain companies that have sort of gone against big companies, I think Canva is a great example of going against Photoshop. Might be, I think the Photoshop missed the cloud race in a way. So I think they worked on the offline model and they had to disrupt their own industry, similar to what Google is trying to fight against ChatGPT. So I think the current usage might be optimized or even sort of retained with AI functions. But I think in longer term, the newer tools might easily replace Canva in a way, because you can now build a Canva easier, faster, and with better inherent features. So you won't have to actually sort of do the X steps in Canva, but there are tools there which are starting to do that. So create an image for me doing XYZ for this kind of stuff. And it will give you an option if you want to edit. I think the edit or doing the manual work would be the last option in a longer term. So because I'm assuming 98% of people would be happy with the results they've got. Not right now, but I think in a year or so. So how's your experience with, say, chatbot, conversational chatbot, in terms of, say, support as a function? So if you've seen companies employ that, what is the benefit and what doesn't it solve for? I think we've covered the human aspect, but are they missing something? In, say, customer support is, I've seen the most sought after function for chatbots if they are implemented outside, say, a ChatGPT. So you embed a code, put a chatbot on your site. What is the benefit and what is it missing? So
I can quickly jump in here. I think the biggest benefit that we've seen was definitely customer support at the initial level for the chatbots and the conversational AI. But going forward, I think what we're gonna keep seeing is like a chatbot or a conversational AI that reviews your personal data and then comes to you with personalized recommendations as to like how you can change your performance or usage of the platform. And that's something we're working on implementing going forward. In addition to that, AI is the core of our platform regardless. So it is essential that its AI interface is like goes all across the spectrum for our platform. But one thing that potentially we're like shying away from implementing, especially so early on into our product journey, we really want to get like one-to-one conversations with our users, and we don't want them to do that with AI chatbots. We want them to do it with us so that we can learn from that feedback and find ways to change up our product roadmap. So that kind of like direct communication, especially so early on in a startup's career, is I think integral. So of course, finding ways to integrate chatbots into your company's roadmap, but then finding ways to like again balance it with your support team, for example, I think is essential.
Absolutely. I think you've touched the right points where as in a longer term, it might get deeper into the customer journey, but I think it started talking to say first-time customers who are initially onboarding on your platform and sort of remove your sort of effort in terms of managing them. Ivan, Vincent, anyone wants to take a dig at it? So how's your experience, say, customer support as a function for chatbot?
Yeah, when it comes to us, it really helped us with different time zones, because we have a lot of US users, and it's totally different time zones. So when we get a support request in the middle of the night when no one is awake, it happens a lot of times that the chatbot just solves the problem and customer leaves and does the exact thing that they asked for. So it actually helps us to just solve that problem instantly, instead of customer waiting for something that is trivial, where's the settings or how can I do this or that, to wait for us for like 5 hours till someone wakes up so they can reply. But whenever it happens when it's our time zone, and even when chatbot answers the question, we always come back to that customer and ask if that helped them, do they have any other questions, do they have any suggestions, etc. So that personal touch is extremely important, especially in early stage, because you create that connection with customer, and after that, when they suggest a feature or enhancement, you can again go much more easier with them to conversation around it and actually solve their problem, and not only just be a support guru who just solves one particular problem but brings them additional value and solves not solves technical problem but solves actual problem. You're mute.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the time zone issue with companies who can't have people in different time zones. So I think if you are able to solve for the basic issues with the onboarding, and that solves almost 80% of your tasks for the initial conversation, and you can take a feedback from the users, how was the experience of the conversation, and improve that experience. And I think you can take the next journey sort of one-to-one on chat or email or any other form of communication. Vincent, your take, and after that I'll open it up. If anyone has a question, just drop in the chat and we'll take that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the core parts have been covered. I completely agree. I think for us, it also has been, working with different time zones. It's definitely a game changer for that. But one kind of a more open-ended aspect where I see that a lot of these, I guess just general use case of AI where it will really kind of make or break it, in any particular segment, I think comes down to recommendations and personalization. It's always this interesting, paradox, or almost, right, as we always have, like, okay, do we really want personalization as a trade-off for less privacy, right, so to speak? And it's even freakier when you think about it, when it's like, yeah, for instance, if let's say I want ChatGPT to write me an itinerary for a trip I go somewhere, right? It'll write something very generic, it's good to start off with, right? But then would I rather prefer it to modify the itinerary exactly based on like, my photos of, my previous trips and what I'd like to do in other countries, right? But then would I want it to have, the access to it? So I think that would be a very interesting place to be in. But yes, I think that's where it's currently still falls short, and is of course in the recommendation side of things, which still makes sense as to why. But I think even when it comes to support, again, the human touch is still, of course, necessary from that perspective. But I think there will be some interesting plays, and whoever can really, make solid progress within the recommendation front will, will have solved quite a big prominent issue that I think lots of people are trying to integrate or use AI in interesting ways, still struggle with, kind of fully relying on it to, work with their customers.
Got it. I think, it's a sort of give and take in terms of personalization. So how much do you want to sort of give up your information in terms of the benefit it can provide, similar to what you do on a Google search or a Facebook. I think this is the next step, but yeah, I think personalization would sort of kick in at some point. If you have any questions for the speakers, just drop it in the chat. And I think this is the last one we'll take. What is the future? What does the future look like in terms of chatbot? I think plugins might not be the next step for ChatGPT. Code interpreter and the internet access did work for me. What do you think? Say we can touch for just ChatGPT. What are the next steps? What do you want to see in ChatGPT that's missing, or what do you expect it to have in the next couple of years?
I think a previous question really answers this well, in that I think the development of niche applications and other kind of conversational AI platforms is going to push ChatGPT to integrate these kind of models and enhance even more for like specific applications. So I think while it's a wonderful tool to use for general purposes, we're going to see it become even more sophisticated going forward, which is going to be super helpful, but at the same time a little bit scary. But let's see what the future holds, and I think this development is going to happen really, really quickly.
Got it. Yeah, so my usage sort of is with ChatGPT was similar to what you discover a new tool, and it is similar to your experience when you discover any good series on Netflix and you are with it for a certain time, then you try to find what is the next sort of big part of it that can excite you. So what is the next big thing on a platform that can excite you? So I think I've come down to a base level where I don't do a lot of Google search for, say, in terms of the question answers kind of content, which doesn't need to be updated if I need any particular information. But the news and the real-time data, I think, does come from search. Ivan, what do you think? And Vincent, I think Vincent can go first. What do you think is missing, and what do you want to see in ChatGPT?
All right. Well, I think one thing is, I think it's similar to how Google's usability and interface was revolutionary back in the day, right? Where you were able to access this one website, right? And then all of a sudden, search anything up and you get the results right away. I think when it comes to ChatGPT, I think it will similarly need to find its own way to have this unique interface to it. And I really don't think that the current way it is the way it's going to be. I think there's going to be some, whether, it'll begin with, more seamless extensions and such, but I think the next step is to figure out how to integrate it far more seamlessly and in a way that kind of defines it similarly to how, the search bar defined Google, so to speak. And that's something I keep thinking about is, what will that look like? And I think that will really be, the moment where conversational AI, and let's say even if we take ChatGPT in particular, that will be kind of the next and the most kind of resounding step will be in that. What is ChatGPT's search bar moment?
Got it. Yeah, I think it might come with interfacing with Siri or some kind of product like that. So voice might be the next step. We don't know. So that's just a guess from my side. Yeah, I think we've come to the closing of our session, and it's been great taking insights from all of you. And personally, it's been insightful for me to understand it from people working in different segments, right from building it as a techie to working at an AI tool company and building out BeforeSunset as Ceylan and Vincent working at a cross section of offline and online industry. So thank you everyone for attending. We'll drop in the links of the socials in the chat window. You can connect with them directly if you want to reach out to them and discuss, I think, just AI or any other product related to it, or want to work sort of with them in discovering their product, if that can be beneficial for you. We regularly host this to understand what is happening in the AI ecosystem and how we as a community can sort of help it. Yeah, so do reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. Happy to help you sort of get started if you're just getting started, or help you discover tools that might be useful for you. Thanks everyone. Thanks Iman, Vincent, and Ceylan for joining in, and it's been great. Thank you.
Thanks
Everyone.
Nice seeing you, bye.
Yes, go on.
Thank you.
Bye.